Hello, my
Hello,
people.
everyone. And I'm trying to find my window. Oh my God. There it
Where's look around for light.
is. Yes, yes, I'm looking around for light. There it is. There's my window. Yay. Okay, so we're back in here. We've been in here before doing the out of control clearings, and
Yes.
now we are back exploring if possibly, maybe being you can have anything to do with being out of control.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
basically everything for being out of control. Actually, here's the interesting part is we have been educated and conditioned to believe that the only gift of being us is controlling everything.
Yeah.
And yet, when we control, we eliminate magic, and being has no feeling or sense of contraction. So think of a time where you asked for something and it just showed up. It was glorious. That was you being.
Yeah.
That was also you being out of control. And so, but we keep looking for how does it feel when I'm out of control? How does it feel when I'm being me? How does it feel when I'm changing things? How does it feel when I create wonderful stuff? And it's actually that space that it's a lot lighter than feeling, and it's a
Mm.
lot more miraculous than feeling.
I was looking at before the live, like, how do I know if I'm being me? Or at least the me I am, currently. And it's really like this flow, no thinking, ideas just pop into my head. It's not like a figuring out, they just come. And that is out of control. I'm not controlling what can come, what cannot come, but it's maybe not what people think out of control is. It's like letting go of the control that's stopping me from being me.
Yeah, and it's exactly that. Like I've been listening to some of the 30 by 30s on Out of Control, and I also listened to the one that I did, and it's just so much fun, and but we think if there's a weird thing. So one of the things you mentioned, there's no thought when you're being you.
Mm,
And so but then we go, well, how do I reproduce it? What's a mechanism of action? And the thing is, there's such a lighter, and I say lighter, like in the sense of lightness, in the sense of happiness, in the sense of no problems and no significance. There's such a lighter space that everything can occur from. And we've
mm,
just been conditioned we've been basically conditioned that that has no value and essentially doesn't exist. Except what do we love the most? When we're being happy and when we don't give a fuck about stupid shit. When we're not making stupid things relevant, when we're letting things, even if other people are making them relevant, when we don't have to, there's
mm.
such a freedom in that. And that's the other thing that you get from being, which is total freedom.
Yeah.
And there's a freedom of choice that we keep trying to define and understand, but there's a space of being that if we can start to notice when that occurs and acknowledge, oh, I'm being more of me in this area, I'm being more of me. When you have less stress in an area, you're being more of you. When
Mm,
you wake up happy, you're being more of
mm.
you. When you have a sense of generosity, you're being more of you. And if we can just start to acknowledge that, we'll start to sort of build a space of awareness of being, which is what which is what it is, but also allows us to choose more of it.
And it's one of the things that made Access so different for me because I had done a lot of modalities before I started Access, and I really valued value my mind, like being smart, figuring things out. So most of those modalities I could figure out quite quickly, and I could figure out how to get good at them too. And still, like, it made me better, but it's under the control, like according to whatever control functions each modality had, that I could measure myself against. This may not be
Yeah,
the case for
which,
everyone, but it was the case for me. And I remember
well,
when I came to Access and I had the first session with you, the energetic synthesis of being session, which was out of control, completely unfigureoutable. And it really like opened this. I'm like, oh, there is something so different available that I had never even considered, not ever. And that's when this, like, I realized that my mind is actually, it's not the way to get to more of me. And I think that's one of the keys for actually being me is not going through my mind. Well, it
yeah.
is one of the
Well,
keys.
with all the common theme outside of access is that it's about getting something right
Mm,
and more right, which causes a furtherance of the thing that we learn growing up of judgment. And
yeah.
so and so when there's a standard for am I having more of this, am I doing it better? There's all of that and but the trap in that is we understand those constructs at this point. We
Mm,
didn't when we were younger, but we were conditioned enough to understand how to go against our very being in order to create acceptable use in this reality. And so when you had that session, see, I don't know how ESB came to me. I mean, I can tell you, I had a session, the very first ESB session was Gary Douglas coming into my office asking, and he said, look, ask my body what it wants, follow the energy, you'll know what to do. And it gave me the permission to go beyond exactly those things you're talking about,
out of control.
out of control. And that's exactly what I did. And it was just there. And I was
Mm,
like, anybody else noticing this? You know, and Gary, of course, was noticing because he was flopping on the table like a fish. But for me, it had this sense of everything was right in the world for one of the first times in my life. And it was like if a space of no judgment and possibilities and almost like liquid light, love, peace, happiness filled the room. And so I'd move my hand like this, and I've never done anything like this before. I was like you, I was doing my spiritual, metaphysical, personal development techniques very unsuccessfully from my point of view. And I realized now that I felt unsuccessful because I wasn't getting more of my being. I was getting more of my thinking. I was
mm,
getting more of my understanding, which I thought understanding would lead me to being, but it didn't give me enough of a space to where this other stuff I did didn't give me enough of a space to where when I would go out into the world, I would have so much space and the world would have whatever it had going on, but I had space of being. And this was the first thing that I had done where I was like, oh my God, this is not only beautiful, but it's possible and it's actually happening and I'm part of it. And oh my goodness. So when I worked on you, it was several years after I had done that first session. And and this is the thing is you don't know until you know, you know?
yeah.
It's like until you have an experience of a space beyond thought that actually accesses that deep and wide part of you that is your being, you can't think yourself to it.
Mm,
So everything I've done over the last 25 years to the best of my ability is to open this up so people can have a sense of that space, a sense and it's not just and we think of space as one thing. No, it's not. It's the fullness of every possibility. And so, you know, people and here's the difficulty is we've grown up and we somehow think we're normal. And we think we're either a worse version of normal based on whether we do this as well as other people, or a better version of normal based on if we do this better than other people. And we think that's a sum total of all there is. But that
mm.
is one tiny, very thin, very solid line of possible realities. And so what starts opening up as you access your being is the space of actual possible realities, the space of realities of possibility.
Well, and one of the things that I also noticed with when we're talking now is that what it gave me was a a different energetic platform to create my life from. So instead of, because I was so focused on getting things right and using my mind, that all these possibly wonderful personal development modalities, I judge myself as good or bad all the time. And now when I have this, when I haven't continuously changed this energetic platform, like it isn't a steady, solid thing. It changes all the time. And with that in place, I can kind of like, I can receive from everything. Now I don't have to, everything fits, like you say. That space is the fullness of possibility. So I can explore things that before I would go in and try to find what was right or wrong, or what's good or bad about this. And does it fit with my role or image or personality? And what if that is completely irrelevant when you're
That.
just being?
Well, and it what it does is when you mention what if that's completely irrelevant, and once again, people listening, it's like I don't know how you can think yourself there. It's the absence of thinking as a valid construct. But what it does, it gives you a space where you can see what's truly relevant to you as a being. And here's the interesting part is when somebody focuses on something and makes it more and more and more relevant, more and more significant, more and more important. Oh my God, this money thing, this relationship thing, this world war thing, this, blah, 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 blah. What happens is they become less capable of choosing something different
Mm,
because one of the gifts of being is that we all have choice. And when you're being, there's just a space from which choosing beyond that seems easier. So rather than, oh, this money thing is going on, it's been going on for years. And by the way, if you have a money thing going on, it's been going on for people around the world for years.
mm,
And what's the solution to it? Not what anybody out there is telling you. The solution is actually becoming more of you so you can chart a course that is different. But you can't see that until you get to be more of you. And
mm,
so you start to, as you be more, so the idea in this reality is you need to focus on it. What can I do today to change it? What can I do today to change it? What can I do today to change it? Oh, it's not changing based on your judgment because even when you're in the middle of changing it, you can't tell that you're in the middle of changing it because you still have all the feelings around it, which is one of the ways we make it really relevant. And change your question to what can I be that will allow this to change?
mm,
And it's almost like the sense is almost like, what can I be that will allow this to change on its own? And it's not exactly right, but sort of. And so it's an interesting thing that what we've been entrained to and what we've been conditioned to and what we've been taught is that we need to work harder and judge more on those things that we want to change
mm,
rather than expand and be more so we are a space that allows possibilities to occur and allows the thing to almost change on its own because what we don't realize and what quantum physics tells us is what you vibrate like you get.
mm.
Well, when you're doing, what are you vibrating like? What are you getting in that area? What if you went, hold on, what can I be?
Yeah.
And what can I be that would actually allow me to like myself enough to allow it to change? Because what we've been doing is we've been in training to a lot of other people, and we have been trying to heal the world by holding on to the things that the people in the world and the people that we care about are suffering. And in so doing, we vibrate like that suffering to try to understand it, to try to change it. But what if you're not suffering that way creates a space for a different choice for everyone?
And this is also the part that it's not a destination. It's not like I'm gonna find me, and that's
Yeah.
me. Finally, it's this journey. And lately, even more than ever, it's been so clear that when you're on the journey, when things come up, like, when money, whatever, when things come up and you actually ask that question, what's right about this? What's right about me that I'm not getting? That, because if you don't have to look at yourself as this, oh, am I at the destination or not? Oh no, this went wrong. Therefore, I am not there yet. I am wrong. I need to be, at some other part of me. And if it's a journey, then it's continuously changing. So everything is part of that
Yeah.
exploration.
And that's how you take yourself out of wrongness.
And you're a master at this, by the way. If
Thank
there's
you.
anybody that looks at, you know, oh, something else came up. Okay, what else is possible here? Nearly, you know, that's an obsession a little
Almost
bit.
obsessively. Yeah, it's true. See, here's the interesting part is I grew up with such wrongness all around me. It was like the people I grew up around were experts at feeling wrong themselves, blaming the world for what it was doing, why they couldn't create their lives. They would just be happy if. And I grew up seeing these people do such intense wrongness, and they would, of course, if I were ever happy, they would do whatever they could to say, you're not right. You need to get in line with us and be wrong. You need to feel poor. You need to make this significant. And at, I think, a very young age, I went, okay, even though it wasn't truly me. And so there's been a dynamic desire to have all the choices and possibilities that I know that my family didn't. And it's interesting because for a long time I went about it the way I'm talking that people go about it. I made things significant. I looked for what was wrong. I looked for the mechanism. I didn't realize people were choosing it. And as I get to be more,
Mm,
it creates a space and it's such an interesting thing. Once again, even talking about a sense of space. But so how many of you watching have at least a little more space right now? A little more room to breathe. Well, that's that. Imagine having that everywhere. Imagine
yeah.
having it with every area of your life. What if your life were not about the struggle to overcome the problems? What if your life were about the enjoyment of the moment and the creation of more every single day? What would that be like? I mean, you may not be able to quite fathom it right now, but take my word for it, it is a possibility. But you'd have to give up your card carrying membership in the reality of struggle. You'd have to be like, okay, I was a member ever since I was little, but I'm giving it up now. I'm going to try something different. And see, we don't do this randomly. We don't try to figure out why people are suffering randomly. We don't try to take it away randomly. We do it because we care. And
Mm,
because we want them to know they're cared about by having somebody like them who sees them, blah, blah, blah. But what if true caring were true being? Like, not true being, but what if true caring were being? And
mm,
what if actual caring is being willing to be that one that explores possibilities so that when other people are ready, they can choose? What if we can allow people to choose whatever they're choosing and we're not the source for changing it? They've got to be. We can't change something for someone else. But what if instead of holding it in until we understand it, what if we could just pass it through to the people that are asking for it and see what possibilities that we can invite to the world by being possibilities?
and also this about like the willingness to be happy. What if that in itself is a superpower
Yeah.
for,
Yeah.
yeah, for other people and for yourself? The less control, the less I control myself, the happier I am allowing myself to be. I'm not saying it wasn't there before, but I'm like allowing myself to be happy. And that makes me more uncontrollable.
Yeah. And it's exactly that. The happier I'm allowing myself
Mm,
to choose this. I'm allowing myself to be this. And most of us have grown up thinking that and being told that if we're happy, we're doing something wrong.
yeah.
It's like if you're happy, you're evil because you don't understand my suffering. And
Or the
I
world suffering.
or the world suffering,
Right.
exactly.
The
And there are
bigger.
people that have a badge of honor for their unhappiness. That's like, you don't understand how the people in this country are suffering. You shouldn't be happy. And I'm like, well, if it worked that way, that would be great. If me being unhappy somehow contributed to changing their suffering, I would do it. But I've done it for 50 plus years, to try to somehow I need to suffer because they are, except it's not making their suffering less. It just adds to the suffering in the world. What if I stop adding to the suffering in the world and instead become a space of possibilities and instead enjoy being alive, which is all what occurs from being you?
Yeah. And when you're happy, you are basically unstoppable. So, what if the world is better served with an unstoppable or a lot of unstoppable beings that
Yeah,
actually is looking for a kinder, greater world with more possibilities?
that. And that really is exactly that. When you're happy, you're unstoppable, which is why so many people have tried to get you to stop being happy because they
Yeah.
would rather put you in a little box in their lives that fits their point of view of reality
Hmm.
than they would to be around someone that they can't relate to with suffering and relate to with control. But what if today's the day you go, it's my life, it's my choice. I'm going to live. I'm going to be me, whatever it looks like, whatever it takes. I'm going to actually have, because the other thing about being you is it's always an exploration. And
Yeah.
how many of you are friggin' bored with who you've created yourself as, and you're willing to only change one tiny part because otherwise you might be too out of control? But what if the joy of being alive is a constant exploration? Ooh, what else? Ooh, what else? Ooh, what else? Ooh, what else? It is, because as a humanoid, you get so fucking bored once you do the same thing twice. You're like, you just want to leave. You want to get out of the situation. But what if this is an invitation to a
Hmm.
constant exploration? What is really true for me? Who am I really? And if I didn't have to hold on to any of the mechanisms of the past, and if there's not a mechanism, and if there's not a why for what people in my life chose that I didn't understand, if there's not a why today for why people are choosing things I don't understand and choosing suffering, and if there's not a why for why I'm choosing it either, and if there's just choice, what would I like to choose? And what can I choose that I've never imagined possible?
Hmm. I was in a live the other day where somebody gave me this. Anyway, I can't find the word in English, but anyway, she talked about how Italian tomatoes, that when she ate them, she could feel the sunshine. She could taste
Mm,
the sunshine inside the tomato. And
hmm
sometimes when people come to an access class and they spend 3 days in this space, in this energetic space of change and possibilities where they're actually allowed to be happy, or they're not, or and they're allowed to explore, who am I today, really. It's like that sunshine, like in the tomato, turns on, and then they come in and they're like not ripe. They're just a tomato, and then when they leave they're like the tomato with sunshine in. And it's the because it's the energy, it's the tools, and it's the perspective, it's all of that too, in that sunshine inside.
hmm
Like the magic that they can't explain, can't define. It just like seeps in somehow during those days in class. And I find that so amazing. And it happens every time.
Yep, it does. And it's one of the things that is so, in a way, challenging to talk to people about. I love the way that you put it. It's like you can taste the sunshine in the tomato. You go from being, it's like in your own life, you go from being one of those American grocery store tomatoes that is like that, was half ripe when it was sent and it supposedly ripened on the way, and you're like, ooh, this isn't even a vegetable. What is going on here? To an Italian sunshine tomato, where you can taste the sunshine.
Yeah.
And it is part, and it's the thing. See, there's this there's this thing we don't talk about, and quantum physics touches on it, but quantum physics, unfortunately, does not have enough awareness of consciousness because they can't fathom that this thing called consciousness exists because they can't prove it. But it's like, so I, as the facilitator, am like, okay, I've got 25 years, ever since this first ESP session, I've been exploring being in a way that is unique and is a way nobody else on the planet has. Okay, cool. I don't usually say that because I don't want to be a guru. Okay. But I have. And I explore this unique space of being in every interaction, with every session, with every class. And what happens is the people in class, just by that space, now,
Mm,
just by the space of all of us, that have are on this journey and been on this journey, there's a different space of possibilities that you can sense. And for a few days before class, a lot of times people go, what's going on? I'm like, have you started the class already? They're like, oh my God, yes. And what that is all the stuff that's about to change and is in the process of changing. But there's this space of all these sun-kissed tomatoes, exploring being, and I do my part as the facilitator. But what happens is the way consciousness actually works is someone over here will have, let's say they've been exploring something, I don't know, for 15 years or 20 years or 3 months, I don't know. And they go on this journey, and what we talk about, plus the energetics of what's there, their world pops open. And they
mm,
get this space of being where before they were doing this particular way of everything we've talked about, structuring their reality, not being, trying to understand, judging without even realizing it. And when that pops open for them, you can perceive it start being like a siren song of possibilities for everybody else in the room, where it gets infinitely easier. So this person pops, and it's like pop, 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 pop. Now you have 7 or 8, 9, 10 people who popped in a similar way. Now everybody in the room within a little bit goes pop, because that's the way consciousness works. It's
contagious sunshine.
what's that?
Contagious sunshine.
Exactly. Consciousness like contagious sunshine. And you could be an Italian tomato who tastes
Yes.
that sunshine because it's contagious. And here's the interesting part is, so day one occurs, right? And you're like, whoa. And then day two and day three, just it's unfathomable and unexplainable, but is so beautiful. And when the Being You Changing the World book, as you know, of course,
Yep.
came out in 2011, and we did a class to introduce it. We did a class here and in the United States and in Europe to introduce it. And prior to that, I was facilitating energetic synthesis of being classes. And so I, brought this
You still
ESP
do.
energy,
I just want to
and I
point
still
that.
do, true story. And I still do. But after that Being You Changing the World class, the change that occurred in the 3-day class was unlike anything I'd ever seen.
Mm,
And it was many people who hadn't done any access before. And I was like, wow, you can take people who've never done any other access class and transform in a way that previously was only available with people who'd done access classes because
mm,
they were primed energetically for it and ready for it. And I was like, wow. But then to see the people 3 months later, 6 months later, a year later, and see how much was still
mm,
changing from that one class, I'm like, this is one of the greatest gifts I can offer the world. And it was from that space of that becoming sunshine for everybody.
mm,
And the interesting part about it is that a lot of people may not know the Being You Changing the World book was created from transcripts of ESB, energetic synthesis of being classes. So it has that beautiful thrum all the way through it. You read it, you change. Well, same
mm,
thing with the class. And the interesting part is what we have available now is so much greater, so much greater, so much more accessibility. And what it gives you is you approach every moment in your life from a different space. There's no longer a sense of hopelessness. There's no longer a sense of I can't change this. There's no longer, oh, this contraction must be real. Yeah, you'll still maybe have contraction, but instead of, oh my God, and you live there for months trying to get out of it, instead you go, oh, okay, well, I've had an experience of my being beyond this. Okay, what's right about this I'm not getting, and what do I need to change this? And always after what seems like a contraction is a far greater space. It's phenomenal.
And you, of course, control every moment of the class, right?
Yes. Just kidding.
Yeah.
It's kind of like if you listen to when I did the out of control clearings on in the Earth Wizards group, it's kind of like that for 3 days. You know, there's ups, there's downs, there's all arounds, but what you start to see, because what happens is, of course, in this class, I allow people to get to the microphone and ask their question, whatever it is. And that's part of the gift of the flow of the class. And what happens is I'll walk somebody through this place in their life where they've been stuck forever, and they'll get the aha they need, and you can sense the whole thing dissolve, and
Mm,
it dissolves for you too. It's just, man, you
yeah.
know,
And it
it's
isn't
just
always
beautiful.
comfortable either. Like sometimes people will ask, like something they've never told anyone in their whole life, the thing that they think
Totally.
is the worst secret ever, and they'll talk about it, and then it's still like you get there. And that is also part of the beauty, like the fact that you don't have to hide anymore all those things that you decided is ugly or evil about you, that you never even nearly dare
Yeah,
to think about. Suddenly, there is this space where those are allowed too, and
that
they fit there too, and
that
that is part of the magic.
it truly is. It's one of the greatest gifts because you'll have somebody who has the courage to ask something they've been judging themselves for their entire lives. And here's the interesting part is it's always showing it. The freedom comes from undoing the lie that somebody is, or the huge amount of lies somebody's been telling themselves. And the primary lie we tell ourselves is that we were wrong, we screwed something up. And just by following the energy and asking them questions, they show them, no, look, you weren't wrong. There was all this stuff going on. Number one, a lot of it may not have been yours. Number two, what if you're not wrong? And number three, what's the awareness that you had that you didn't acknowledge and can have now that will set you free? And that's what it's all about. It's not about do this, don't do this. It's about what can we be and
Mm.
explore and create together. And
And
how
then
much fun can we have doing it, by the way? Because if I'm not laughing, no, unacceptable. There's got to be laughter. Otherwise, I'm not facilitating. I'm sorry.
then you go for a break and you puck yourself and come
Exactly.
with more jokes. And you do sessions too. And that's part
Yeah.
of, for me, that's such a beautiful way of also even going beyond the questions and actually showing how our bodies and our both our energetic bodies and our physical bodies are actually part of this, that we're not, our being is also in communion if we let it with our body and our bodies. So could you talk a little bit about that as well?
It's one of the greatest gifts that, once again, for me, it just is. But for most of how we've lived our lives, there's this distinction and separation between body and being.
Mm,
And what I can show people is they're not separate in the sense of they should have a communion, a place where they're like best friends and contribute to each other. Because otherwise, you're left with what you think your entire existence is just the space of your body, or that in order to access your being, you're just airy fairy space who's not very effective in doing anything. But in the convergence of those, it's a true convergence of possibilities embodied where your body gets to be this gift because it is, but it gets to access your being and be a venue for your being to explore being alive, which is just amazing. And so and to a very dynamic degree, it becomes about no longer living in the suffering, but living in the joy of knowing, the joy of your knowing and knowing there's more possible and actually looking forward to being alive. And here's the interesting part is in doing a session. So when somebody pops out, we'll call them up on the table. I'll work on them energetically, do this energetic synthesis of being session. But the interesting part is everybody in the room gets a session.
Yeah.
Our
Yeah.
bodies are like tuning forks, our beings are like tuning forks. And when you raise the vibration of that, everybody's vibration raises. Everybody gets a session when there's a session done on the table. And that's whether they're live or online. It's just friggin' amazing. Talk about out of control definition, et cetera. It really is the embodiment of it.
And, and now when you talk about it, I also realize that having a session or receiving a session is one of the times where my body and my being have been out of control, like together, like both of them out of control. And then that's what you call the convergence. I've never looked at, but that's really what's occurring. And I remember one time I had a session in a class, which also is an amazing thing because you're not having a session on your own. You're really having a session with and for everyone in the room and online. It's not a personal thing. And I remember after you asked me like, so, how you be? And I'm like, I feel like my fingers are my energetic fingers are like
Hmm.
kilometers long. Like it's kind of like if I was like, whatever, what's it, the Edward Scissorhands, but like with huge, huge energetic, like fingers that could move through the whole world. And that was just like, yes, out of control and amazing.
Well, that and see what it's amazing how whatever you allowed to change and whatever I could facilitate and whatever everybody else in the room and as part of the class facilitates opens up this space for something miraculous and beyond current reality.
Mm,
And because that's not reality, that's a reality of possibilities there. But the thing is, what excites me also is your willingness, mine, everybody else's, creates that space where now everybody can have access to whatever that is in their own way.
yeah.
And once again, that is out of control. And it's totally also beyond logic. It's beyond
Mm,
logical explanation. This is where logic stops running your life. Because, sorry, logic hasn't done much for you except get you to judge and get you to think that if you want to change something, you have to understand every
mm,
mechanism of it first. And you must change one mechanism at a time, or, it's not about changing the mechanism. It's about changing our choices and having choice to choose something different. And that is not an understandable phenomenon. It's not a judgeable phenomenon. So, what choices can you make right now that
mm.
will allow you to have and be everything you say you truly desire? Right and wrong, good and bad, POD and POC, all 100, shorts, boys, povas, bases, creations, and beyonds. And what are you proving with not having the life you truly desire that you are currently choosing? Everything that is times a godzillion, will you destroy and uncreate it all, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, POD and POC, all 100, shorts, boys, poveds, bases, creations, and beyonds. Wow.
Mm.
And if you had 50% more lightness and happiness and ease when you woke up tomorrow, how different would your life be? And then if you got another 50% the day after that and another 50% the day after that, how different would your life be? Will you say yes, please?
Yes.
Right and wrong, good and bad, POD and POC, all 100, shorts, boys, poveds, bases, creations, and beyonds. Zowie.
Wow. Zowie. And we're going to end in a few minutes, but I was thinking maybe you want to run that out of control clearing. Just,
So what would happen if you were out of control? Definition, limitation, form, structure, significance, linearity, and concentricities with being you.
Mm,
Everything that doesn't allow that times a godzillion, we destroy it and create it all, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 100, shorts, boys, poveds, bases, creations, and beyonds. What LLCCMMEE can you and your body be to be out of control? Definition, limitation, form, structure, significance, linearity, and concentricities with being you. Everything that doesn't allow it, times a gazillion, we destroy and uncreate it, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 100, shorts, boys, poveds, bases, creations, and beyonds. What energy, space, consciousness, and choice can you and your body be to be out of control? Definition, limitation, form, structure, significance, linearities, and concentricities with being you. Everything that doesn't allow it, times a godzillion, we destroy and uncreate it, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 100, shorts, boys, poveds, bases, creations, and beyonds. Ooh, that's a good one. I like that
It
one.
is a good one. Both of them were amazing. Ah, thank you
Dude.
so much. I'm definitely more sunshiny tomato after our
Yay.
conversation.
Anybody else? Anybody else more like a sunshiny tomato?
Look, they're saying
Mm-hmm.
yes, our peeps. Yay.
Yes.
We see the translators. We don't see you if you're on YouTube or Facebook, but we
Yes.
see our translator crew.
Be a
They're
new
very
question
sunshiny.
for people. Are you a sunshiny tomato?
Yes.
No. Would you like to be? Um, and and here's the interesting part. Like, how did we get there? Well, there
Mm,
was no script, there's no formula. It's the way this works. It's the
mm,
way this whole being you universe works.
mm.
It
Yeah.
just is, and it invites you to what is.
And
That's you.
I can't wait to see where this weekend's class go because you have a Being You class in Brazil this weekend and
Yep.
it starts on Saturday, right? So where will that go now with the tools
What
they have
else is
available?
possible?
What else is possible?
Here's what I'd like everybody to do is I'd like you to get the sense of how different the world will be after this class
Mm,
for us and for you. Cool. Now, will you be and contribute whatever that takes and ask, what can I be that will allow this? Remember the question you want to ask for everything. What can I be? What can I choose? We keep thinking, what can I do? But we
mm.
don't even know what to do or how to do. We just do blindly to try to be and try to create. Well, what if you don't have to do that anymore? Now, for those of you, some of you might be like, oh my God, there's a Being You class. I didn't know. I want to go. Or you might be like, I'd love to go, but I can't because of this or whatever. I'm getting my rabbit waxed or I don't know, whatever. Here's what I'd like you to do. Look at this, okay? If you, and this also, by the way, is a tool for any choice you have to make, okay? Um, and it takes thinking out of it, which is really cool. So, what will your life be like? Not look like, it's not seeing, it's sensing. More space or less. Get the sense of what your life will be like in 5 years if you choose to take this class, if you do this class this weekend. Okay. And if you choose not to, what will your life be like? Now, this is a tool for knowing what to choose with anything. And if you didn't know the Being You class was coming up, it's coming up. It starts Saturday. You can come to Brazil or you can do it online. But what I'm interested in is that space of what gets created as your life and our future. And there are no prerequisites for the Being You Changing the World class. Changes more now than it ever has. And here's one of the other things that I've noticed. I want to make a comment about money because it's been such an issue for so many people for so many years. A couple questions that Gary gave me that were really helpful. One, he said, the purpose of money is to change people's realities. And I went, what? He said, the purpose of money is to change people's realities for the greater. And I was like, holy shit. First person who ever said anything that made me want to have money because my family was so weird about money and loved
Mm.
and hated it and blah, 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 blah. Probably like a lot of us had weird shit. And then he said, can you change the world more with money or without money? I went, oh my God, with. He's like, yeah, you can change it without, but you have a lot more choices of being able to change it with money. And I was like, oh my God, okay,
Mm.
cool. And then he said, in your life, look at this. If it weren't about the money, what would I choose? And I was like, what? He's like, if it weren't about the money, what would you choose? So I was going to buy a printer one time, and I remembered we had just had this conversation, and I went, okay, if it weren't about the money, what would I choose? And I was like, oh. And it was interesting because I thought, oh, I would, if it's not about the money, I'll buy the most expensive one. But instead I asked a question. I was like, if it weren't about the money, what would I choose? And I ended up getting this one that was like $150. The other one was like $500 and had all the bells and whistles and all the stuff, which is what I would have done had I not asked the question. And and I went, and for each of those, I went, what will my life be like in 5 years if I buy this one and if I buy this one? The big one with all the bells and whistles was like this, and the other one was like this. So I buy this one, and I'm like, wow, this is weird. I'm just totally going on question, doing my best to follow the energy here. And so I take the little one home, and oh my God, it fit in the only space I had for a printer. The other one would have been way too big. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad I asked the question. Okay. But I want to mention one other thing that I've seen because I would like people to. This thing about money is a way that we are making ourselves suffer unnecessarily. Okay. And one thing you want to realize is you will always find the money for something you truly desire to do.
Mm.
Okay. So if somebody's like, oh, I'd like to do this vacation with you, but I don't have the money, what they're really telling you is, I don't want to go on vacation with you. If they're saying, oh, I'd like to come visit you, but I don't have the money, what they're really telling you is, I really am not, I don't want to come visit you. And you should realize that. And that's a choice that people have, and it's a choice you should have also. But don't lie to yourself. See, I don't care if you lie to everybody else, do not lie to yourself. Okay. So one of the things I found, like there was a lady who came to a bars class that I was facilitating. She saved up for that bars class for a year. The $350, I think it was for the bars class, she saved up for a year. She did the class, and 6 months later, her entire financial reality had changed.
Mm.
So she found her way to get there. Previously, her entire family's excuse was money. Her excuse was money for everything she couldn't choose. When she took a leap of awareness and said yes and did it, she changed her entire financial reality. Now, I'm going into this little conversation because we're going to be talking about it in the Being You class. And if you're not there, I want you to have this info. And I want you to have this info for how you look at everything in your life. Like, for example, with the Being You class, if you look and go, oh, I could never afford it, stop, pock and pod that. Okay. Here's another thing. Whenever you have anything come up that's a limited point of view, you go like, oh, I could never afford it. Just stop, go, everything that is, destroy and uncreate, pock and pod. Okay. Eventually it won't come up anymore. But what's coming up is your points of view that you're using to keep you in your comfort zone. Now, if somebody's looking
Control
at
you.
it and going, hey, not for me, I'm not going, I don't desire to, cool. I would like you to have that choice. But if you make it about the money, you're going to you're going to further that thing that you can't choose because of money. It's not about the money, it's about our choice. Okay.
And if
And
you go back
yeah,
to the beginning, it's also about control.
yeah,
Because you are controlling instead of being out of control and actually allow, like that question is the 5 years is the same thing. You're getting out of control because you can't predict what 5 years is. You have to look at the energy. And this is the same. Like if you didn't try to control this, what would you choose?
that. If you didn't try to control it, what would you choose? Because here's the thing, and we're able to, of course, go into it, expand it, explode it really dynamically in the class because we have the, time, space, whatever. We have the ability to do that there because of the deep and wide dive that it is. But if what people will do is they're comfortable with the limitation they know, they're uncomfortable with the possibility beyond it that they don't. So even if they're suffering and they know that suffering, they're willing to hold that in place and perpetrate it on themselves as though they have no choice because they're
Mm.
also comfortable believing they have no choice. It's almost like they don't want to be trusted with choice. So they'll perpetrate because they're comfortable with the suffering they know. And what they're doing is they will often, what most humanoids will do is they will control themselves by controlling their money flows. They'll control their choices by creating it so they don't have the money, so they have total choice. Everywhere you're doing that, all of you, will you destroy and uncreate it all, please? Times a gazillion, right, wrong, good, bad, all 100, pod, poc, shorts, boys, poveds, bases, creations, and beyonds. And have I got a question for you that we will also be running in the class? What are you controlling with the lack of money you are choosing? Everything that is, times a godzillion, we destroy and uncreate it all, please.
Mm.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and poc, all 100, shorts, boys, povez, bases, creations, and beyonds. Who and what are you controlling with the lack of money you are choosing? Everything that is, times a godzillion, we destroy and uncreate it all, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and poc, all 100, shorts, boys, poveds, bases, creations, and beyonds. Who or what are you controlling with the lack of money you are choosing? Everything that is, times a godzillion, we destroy and uncreate it all, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and poc, all 100, shorts, boys, poveds, bases, creations, and beyonds. Who or what are you controlling with the lack of money you are choosing? Everything and creating.
Mm.
Everything that is times a godzillion, we destroy and uncreate it all, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and poc, all 100, shorts, boys, poveds, bases, creations, and beyonds. And another great process, what are you proving with the lack of money you are choosing and creating? Everything that is times a godzillion, we destroy and uncreate it all, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 100, shorts, boys, poveds, bases, creations, and beyonds. And what are you proving with the lack of money you were choosing and creating? Everything that is times a godzillion, we destroy and uncreate it all, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 100, shorts, boys, poveds, bases, creations, and beyonds. See, one of the things I love about all of this and the Being You class, especially, is for some people, it's the first time in their life they've been in a room where they can bring anything up without judgment, like money, for example. When have you ever heard somebody talk to you about money from no judgment and from not trying to sell you something, but just desiring you to be free in this area too? And that is my desire for you, to be free in all areas so that you actually have choice, so you can actually enjoy being alive like you're capable of.
Yes.
Hmm.
It's like, and what else after that? What can we add after that?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think we added what we came to add to people's lives for today. So come join us at the Being You class.
Thank
Let's
you
play,
so
let's
much.
have fun. Or don't.
Go with
Your
sunshine.
choice. Go with sunshine, you little Italian tomato. Go forth and be the sunshine. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dain.
Thank you so much. And thank you, translators. Thank you, all you behind the scenes, amazing
Yes.
people. You guys are rock. You rock.
Ah, thank you.
Bye bye, little tomatoes.